Michele from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. Today's day 14 in the Countdown to Christmas 2021 series, and we're going to be using embossing and white pigment ink. So I'm taking a Tim Holtz 3D embossing folder as well as a stencil, and I believe that stencil is from Simon Says Stamp. I am going to attach it to a piece of cardstock using some washi tape, and I'm going to actually put that to the side. We're going to run it through the Cuttlebug in a little bit and emboss it, but I wanted to start with the 3D embossing folder. So the pigment ink that we're going to use is MFT's Sweet Tooth pigment ink, and we're going to use this for both cards. I'm going to ink up the left side of the 3D embossing folder with that Sweet Tooth pigment ink, just to give it a little something extra. If you run this through without any ink on it, it is beautiful. But I think this just gives it a little bit of a snowy feel to it, which you'll see in a minute. I'm going to place the paper down, being careful not to shift that paper once I close it because the ink is going to transfer onto that cardstock. I'm going to run that through my Cuttlebug and look at how pretty it came out. We're going to do a little bit something extra with it, but I'm going to leave it to the side right now to let that pigment ink dry because it takes pigment ink a while to dry. We're now going to emboss that stencil. Now I used that mat that you saw, and that was from the Gemini Junior. I think that I need to use my Spellbinders mat that I have, and I just couldn't find it. It's a gray mat, and I don't know what happened to it. It didn't emboss as deeply as I would have liked it to, but it does have a little bit of an impression. So it was kind of a fail, but it still came out great. Now I'm going to be going over the Ho 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 with my blending tool as well as that same pigment ink, and you're going to see that I get a really pretty candy cane effect from this. So you could have done it with some reds and greens, but I liked this red and white. I just thought they looked really, really pretty. You could do it on white paper with red ink, but I had the white pigment and I wanted to use the white pigment ink in both cards. So you can see there is a little bit of a line at the bottom, so it did emboss a little bit, but it didn't, you really can't see here unless I show it real close. So now I'm going to attach the bottom, or the card fronts to the card bases. So this one's still a little bit wet, so I just used my ATG to put tape on the red one. And then I found a piece of pattern paper which I cut down to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 because we're going to do a 5 by 7 card. You could put this on a slimline card or a 5 by 7 card. I thought it looked a little bit too plain, so I cut down a piece of fun foam to a little bit smaller than that Ho 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 piece, put ATG on both sides of it, attached it to the back of the Ho 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 piece, and then attached it to the card front. And when I was done with that, it still looked a little bit plain to me, so I wanted to jazz it up a little bit. I could have used some of my sparkles, my gems, to put in the centers of some of those snowflakes, but what I decided to do was, at first I thought, this is great, I'll pull out my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen. It moved the ink around, which just kind of created a hole in that little line. So I don't believe the ink was totally dry yet because, again, with pigment ink, it does take a very, very long time for it to dry. So I carefully placed my stencil back over there and went over the letters. And then I realized, well, that bottom of the H is really, really dark now. So now I'm going to go over all the letters again, just very carefully not to get anything on the red paper where it doesn't belong. So just going over all 3 of those words and just making sure that it has a nice coat on top of it of the white pigment ink. So once that was done, I carefully took the stencil off, and I'm going to pick out some Nuvo glitter drops because we're going to add some little dots to the back. Now this has a little bit of sparkles in it. So you see, I'm just going over and putting little dots where there are dots already on the paper. If you don't have dots, or if you just want to make your own, you can do that. You can put them on the snowflakes. I could have outlined the snowflakes. There's a lot that I could have done, but I just wanted to add a little bit of something. And once I added these dots, I think the card actually looks finished. I was really happy with it. So after I'm finished doing all of the dots, I will put it off to the side and let that dry so that we can work on the other piece. oh, I'm sorry, I actually go back in and put dots onto the red piece to kind of make it coordinate and give it a little bit more of a finished look. I forgot that I did that. So I always do things in uneven numbers, so you'll see I'm counting out how many dots that I did. There's no rhyme or reason for why I put things where I put them. It just was whatever looked kind of balanced to me. So I'll do that. And then this is, I don't remember the Nouveau drop color. It was just a green that I had in my stash. And there you go. I'm counting to make sure it's uneven. And then we will put it to the side. And I'm going to do a lot of work to this one. So I'm going to use the Nouveau drops on all the trees. So on the finished product, it wasn't dry yet when I took the pictures of this. If I remember to, I'll add a picture in at the end of what it looks like when it's dry now, and you can still see the white through it. It looks really, really pretty. So I'm just going over all of the trees, and then after I did that, I thought the Christmas looked a little bit too plain. So I'm actually going to go over all of the letters with this Nouveau drops, just to add a little bit to them. These letters, and I'm not sure if you can tell here, they have so much dimension from the 3D embossing folders. If you guys have never used one, I highly recommend using them. I have a couple of them and I absolutely love them. They give, embossing folders always give dimension, but these ones give so much dimension. So after I've outlined all of the letters, I decide that I really like that, and I'm going to leave that card alone and let that card dry. So I'm going to show you both cards, and you can see there's a lot of sparkle and shine on it, and especially texture and dimension with the 3D embossing folder. So I hope you guys like these quick cards. They'll be very easy to mass produce. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys again real soon for another video. Bye!